Remember the 16th president? The one with a huge beard, who's rumored a vampire slayer? Sorry to douse your spirits, but he would never be a vampire slayer. His goal was to preserve things, especially the Union, aka the United States. In the election of 1860, South Carolina threatened to secede from the Union if Lincoln won. They had been planning to secede for over 30 years. In his inaugural address, Lincoln directly targets South Carolina and the problems they have with the Union. He appeals to them by stating he will enforce the Constitution and will not outlaw slavery. However, when Lincoln won the election, South Carolina seceded anyways. In his inaugural address, Lincoln states, "No state upon its own mere motion can lawfully get out of the Union." He also says doing so is insurrectionary, revolutionary, according to circumstances. South Carolina wrote in their Declaration of Secession to fulfill their constitutional obligations, and we refer to their own statutes for the proof. Abraham is saying it is illegal to secede, but South Carolina thinks it's constitutionally right. Both sides create a problem by interpreting the Constitution in different ways. South Carolina states, "For 25 years, this agitation has been steadily increasing. They declare they have been wanting to secede for a long time." Lincoln, in his inaugural address, says, "A disruption of the Union is now being attempted." It is strange Lincoln says the disruption is only occurring now, because he read the Declaration of Secession before he was elected. He already knew that South Carolina was going to secede, and he tries to stop them, but makes his address seem as if it is coming from the view of people in the North, not just him. Lincoln states that, in doing this, there needs to be no bloodshed or violence, and there shall be none unless it be forced upon the national authority. South Carolina states a war must be waged. Lincoln wants to avoid war clearly, but South Carolina feels there must be a war to protect what they have. This is strange because the South's plan for war was just to be defensive, and not to suffer a terrible loss. As the real image of war began to hit people, the plans for war changed, and the sides almost switched what they were intended to do in the first place. The North began to invade the South, while the South was hoping not to be demolished. The first sentence of Lincoln's first inaugural address is, "In compliance with a custom as old as the government itself." South Carolina's Declaration of Secession contains a sentence, "fully justified this state and then withdrawing from the federal union." Both Lincoln and South Carolina are reluctant in what they are doing. Lincoln doesn't want South Carolina to secede, but doesn't want to give a public speech about it. South Carolina might not want to wholly secede, but they believe they must. Both sides feel they are forced to do what they are doing. South Carolina directly says they have been forced to secede in the first paragraph of the Declaration of Secession, and Lincoln says, "in compliance with," which makes it sound like he must be there, but he doesn't want to be. A quote from Lincoln's first inaugural speech says, "One section of our country believes slavery is right and ought to be extended, while the other believes it is wrong." South Carolina says, "They have denounced as sinful the institution of slavery. They have encouraged and assisted thousands of our slaves to leave their home." South Carolina views the North as seeing slavery clearly as an abomination, and the South doesn't really understand why. They were grown up to have slaves, so why wouldn't the North think so? Slaves are important either. South Carolina thinks the North is only caring about what the North wants. But however, Lincoln says in his speech that clearly both sides have a different opinion on slavery. But he continues on to say slavery is wrong. I mean, people are people after all. In Abraham Lincoln's first inaugural speech, he states, "The Union is less perfect than before the Constitution." This means that the Union may have been okay before the Constitution, but after the Constitution, things started to fall apart. South Carolina says, "The constituted compact has been deliberately broken and disregarded by the non-slaveholding states." The non-slaveholding states South Carolina is referring to is the North. Both these quotes are referring to the Constitution, but South Carolina is accusing the North of breaking the Constitution and ruining the Union. In the end, the North walked away victorious. Although the South didn't agree with the North's viewpoints, they soon came around and helped create the nation we are today.